What's up, guys? How's it going? Got some breaking news here. Thomas, this is the news that we were hoping for, we were waiting for, wondering how soon it would actually happen. But Kevin Patullo, as you can see from the title, everybody, the thumbnail, everything else there, but officially will no longer be the offensive coordinator for the Eagles.
How about that? Yeah, Nick Sirianni, I'm sure we'll pull up the statement here, officially made the announcement less than 10 minutes ago. Kevin Patullo is out as the Eagles offensive coordinator. There's some interesting kind of nuances around this, but first off, let's just all drop a like down below. This was the news that we were waiting for. A lot of people thought it would come yesterday. Makes sense that they had to meet with people and clear out locker rooms. They can't just fire him immediately following the 49er loss, but this had to come, one, as soon as possible because they need to get searching for a new offensive coordinator. And there's a lot of options out there, and a lot of people are already taking interviews and trying to figure out their next home. And two, every single Eagle fan was not going to be gaslit into the idea that a second season is what we really need under Kevin Patullo, or really it wasn't Kevin Patullo's fault. The fact that Twitter exists and you can break down film for people, the masses to go ahead and see, we've all known this since week 3, week 4, week 5, week 1. There's some people saying, I don't know about this Kevin Patullo offense. Now, 18, 19 weeks later, it's officially done. Philadelphia is looking for a new offensive coordinator.
That they are. And again, for people that are just joining now, wondering, is it actually official? Did it happen? You see on your screen there, Adam Schefter and many others, but sources, Eagles fired offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo, going on their 5th OC, obviously, in 5 years, because we know that it's just a vicious cycle that continues. And then, as Thomas was mentioning, there's the official statement. We did not hear Nick Sirianni. It's interesting. I mean, you know, at some point he's going to talk, but we get a written statement from Nick via the Eagles, of course. But for those that are maybe driving or something, I'll save you. I'll read it here quickly because it's short, it's brief. Basically, he says, I've decided to make a change at offensive coordinator. I met with Kevin today to discuss the difficult decision, as he is a great coach who has my utmost respect. He has been integral to the team's success over the last 5 years, not only to the on-field product, but the behind the scenes as a valued leader for our players and organization. I have no doubt he will continue to have a successful coaching career. Ultimately, when we fall short of our goals, that responsibility lies on my shoulders. And that was Nick Sirianni in his statement there. Mike Garafolo then followed it up to suggest maybe there's a chance that Patullo does not stay in the building. I mean, we'll see as this thing plays out. You read that there, though, Thomas, and it's like, the way that Nick even writes it is, I have no doubt he will continue to have a successful coaching career. It sounds like to me that that's like he's on his way out, but we wish him the best, kind of like a Brian Johnson that we had a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it sounds that way, although there was an interesting Jeff McClain article yesterday in the Philadelphia Inquirer saying that there's a scenario where he just goes back to being the offensive offensive passing game coordinator, essentially, which is odd, right? I mean, that normally is not something that you want to do. You bring in some outside offensive coordinator who has to keep the passing game coordinator who was previously the offensive coordinator. So I think he's going to be officially gone. And this, to me, with Sirianni coming out and saying it, whether Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman told him to do it or not, this felt like you better get rid of Kevin Patullo, Nick, or else you're going to be gone yourself. I mean, this was Press Taylor, Doug Peterson 2.0. And the fact that they got it done this fast, I think the writing was on the wall. And in that McClain article as well, there were reports around the building that it wouldn't matter if Philadelphia made the Super Bowl. Like, literally, Kevin Patullo would still have been gone. And so it's done. We knew it would happen. I know there was a tiny bit of me that was like, what if they keep this guy and really try and gaslight us into saying, we'll just give him one more year?
Yeah.
But I think 99.8% of me was like, he's going to get fired. And now he's been. And now Jalen Hurts gets a brand new offensive coordinator. He talked about that yesterday during the locker room cleanout. And they got to get somebody in the Vic Fangio mold who's not going to leave after 1 year, preferably, who takes, no nonsense and actually pushes this offense into the next level, into the next gear, into making it an actually dangerous offense, because we basically watched a football team this entire season in 2025, Josh, that was an absolute Ferrari in every single aspect. I mean, it's just an absolute supercar filled with superstars. Had a couple of flat tires with injuries on the offensive line, which is more important than people realize. But then, essentially, it was driven by somebody without a driver's license. I mean, literally, they had no idea how to scheme A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert open week after week after week. The next offensive coordinator, that is priority number one, and it will be an experienced guy. The question is it the flavor of a Mike McDaniel, young experience, or a Todd Monken, old experience? I think maybe old experience makes more sense because of the Fangio success, but we'll see.
Yeah, we would take a lot of different ones there, and even I don't know. I'll just throw this out there, and we'll have all the reports, all the speculation, all the rumors, because this will probably drag out for a couple weeks at least. Usually, I mean, you remember how this happened with the report of Kellen Moore's getting interviewed, but Cliff Kingsbury's getting interviewed. There's a couple other potential candidates. They're going to do their due diligence. But Nate Schillhouse is another one to keep an eye out. Now, that's a wild card pass game coordinator for the Rams. He was an offensive coordinator back with Iowa State. He's got connections with Matt Campbell, who was Nick Sirianni's roommate, if I'm not mistaken, from whenever Sirianni was in college. But he's super young. Is it the wild card approach? You mentioned, do you go young? Do you go old? If Nate were the guy to be the OC, that's one of those where you almost like, because I know we're like, hey, you don't want to get the younger guy because if he does well, he's going to get hired as a head coach. He's so young, though. Like, if he had success, it's almost like it'd be too early for a team to go, yeah, we'll interview you, but we're not ready for you to be the head coach yet. So you might get a couple years. I'm not saying that that's my preference. I'm just saying I've seen that name thrown out there by a couple other people. So just to keep an eye out, if you do get a notification, it's like, what in the world are we going with? I thought we're talking about age, right? We're going with veteran leadership and the guy who's not going to try to jump up in his career. It wouldn't surprise me if you see that name out there, but just some of the reasons why. Shout out to all you guys. Super chats. Appreciate that. Make sure to drop a like. Obviously, Kevin Patullo is gone, and Dylan here with a 10 says, I know the great country of Philadelphia is free of the illegal regime of Osama bin Patullo. But
There
if this
it is.
is how it's going to be every year, offensive coordinator-wise, I'm sure Howie and Jeffrey are keeping head coach options open.
Yeah, and this is not a live show about Nick Sirianni, but I do think the fact that Nick Sirianni announced this firing means Nick Sirianni's probably staying. And I think the only scenario where Nick would have been axed is if they had under-the-table deal with John Harbaugh. Like, Harbaugh, to me, would be the only guy. I personally don't think that he makes a lot of sense because I want an offensive mastermind to come in here in the Ben Johnson, area. Stefanski, to me, makes more sense than John Harbaugh from a offensive perspective. Not going to happen, but I could see how, Jeffrey really liked Andy Reid and they really liked Doug Peterson, and Harbaugh's kind of in that same mold. Unless they had an under-the-table handshake deal with John Harbaugh, Nick Sirianni's not going anywhere. Because the problem right now, Josh, this is not just an OC problem. There are 9 head coach openings in the National Football League right now with Mike Tomlin gone. And Tomlin's not necessarily fired. He's been stepped down. He still has his rights to the Steelers. So the Steelers got to officially get rid of him if they want to go ahead and sign somewhere else. But it's not a very deep coaching pool. Like, this is not last season where there was a Mike Vrabel and there was a Ben Johnson and there was like all these names where you were, Mike McDonald, a couple seasons ago. That's a big name. It's not a very good one. It's a lot of fired ex-coaches who didn't work out places that you have to then hope are going to, turn things around in their next, line of duty. So Stefanski is another great example of that. And so I think Nick Sirianni stays, but obviously they are not going to promote within, period. There's a 0% chance of that happening. They're going to go find their next Kellen Moore, and they're going to hope that Kellen Moore, plus a solid offseason, plus a healthy offensive line, will be enough for Philadelphia to get back into a deeper position in the playoffs than just the wild card round.
And we can be appreciative for that. Like you say, there's no internal hires. There wouldn't be from that stance. Jalen said it in the press conference yesterday too, talking about like we got to get out of this mold. We got to break this mold of we do well one season and then wild card, one season wild card. We'll take it for this year because obviously that would mean the big game. But then yes, beyond that, but you do want someone that's consistency, the continuity you see around the league. I mean, so many different quarterbacks, like. Lots of them, even good offensive coordinators. That first year, it's like, hey, they had a pretty good year, but they have their growing pains. But then they can build on that. And then, they get a little bit better the following year because it's continuing to grow the offense, expand the knowledge, and they're seeing the same things. Jalen's had 11 offensive coordinators in 11 years. You go back to college, it's been 11 years. So it makes a huge difference. I think we all understand that. Lady with the 2, appreciate that. Turn this into a cookout stream. We're just hopping on quickly to update the news, but there will be lots of other conversations to be had. The Nibs with the 10, what's the appetite for Nick showing Nick the door? That's what Thomas was going over previously. Probably not a lot. Austin with a 5, the bad man is gone. He can't hurt us anymore. Emmett's the same way. Todd Monken or McDaniel, maybe Dable. That's another name to throw out in the mix, potentially keep an eye out. But as you said, Thomas, there's so many guys that are getting interviews and you just kind of wonder where they're going to fall. It feels like several head coaching candidates or guys who had head coaching jobs last year are going to end up having to settle for the OC. But that remains the question. Then where does Philly fall? Because if you're trying to make this more of a longevity, you really want to go to a guy that you're expecting yeah, not necessarily the biggest aspirations to be that head coach and more so okay with being an OC. And the Eagles have shown they're fine paying a lot of money for the right guy at offensive coordinator, but they just got to be able to plan this thing out correctly. So JP with the 10. Just want to say I think Nick is safe. Yes, there's too many vacancies. Like you were saying there, it should be noted Nick made the decision. Doug did not fire his people. Obviously, Press Taylor also.
100%.
You were saying. So Adam for the 2. Best Eagles news I've heard since week 5. That might be
been a long
correct.
time.
Yeah,
it's been a long time. Yeah,
a long time coming.
Yeah, it certainly makes it for the sting. Well, I don't know if it does. I mean, I would have rather Philadelphia won on Sunday and then still fired Kevin Patullo after the NFC title game or the Super Bowl or whatever. But it definitely makes up for it, and I think it proves to all of us that we weren't crazy, right? Every single week, Nick Sirianni and players, would all be up there defending Kevin Patullo. It's not just him, oh, we got to execute better, and we're like, okay, yeah, like you guys need to execute better, but we also need to not run 4 verticals or hitches 95% of the time. Show me something creative. Goodness gracious. And they never did. And now this proves that what they were saying was, a lie, that they were just trying to protect him and hope that something would be better as the weeks and months went on. It never did. And axing him this quickly, this is the fastest that they did. It took them 2 weeks to ax Brian Johnson after 2023.
Yeah,
it was 5 days
for
Mike Groh. I mean, it took a long time to get rid of these guys. This is literally less than 48 hours.
Yeah, the reason I remember that, too, is it was we lost the game, and it falls on my daughter's birthday the very next day. So I was like, yeah, I remember the duration of how that took. So, to actually do it very quickly, I'm with you. I'm never cheering on for the Eagles to lose. But the fact they did lose early, you're able to get into that candidate race a lot quicker, and we'll certainly take that. Salem with a 5. Took too long to fire Patullo, even though it was quicker. Bring back Frank Reich as OC. I think there's a lot of other better candidates out there. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing because it can't be as bad as what KP was. But like we've been saying, OC-wise, you got a lot of options. Fandy with a 2. Look at God, won't he do it? Hashtag insert shout. There you go. The prayers have been answered. Teeter with a 2. Let's freaking go. Who's y'all's top 3 to 5 OC hirings you want? We probably don't have time because we're, again, just jumping on for the breaking news here to go through all those. But
give me your number one. Give me your number one.
Todd Monken. I said that actually the last, I think, 2 weeks, but I'm sticking to Todd Monken. Anthony DeBona, if you want to go check out, he'll give you 21. He wrote an article today, actually. 21 OC candidates out there. That's maybe too much. But for you, do you have a top one yet?
Yeah, I'm a Stefanski guy. I think Stefanski's going to get a job. Yeah. I think Monken is obviously probably just going to stay as an OC unless he follows Harbaugh, right, wherever Harbaugh goes. But I would do Kevin Stefanski. I think he's one of the brighter, younger, guys out there. And would he leave us after a season? Probably so. But I think most of them would. Dable would, McDaniel would. I mean, Monken's the only one who wouldn't, right? Any of the other names out there are going to leave after a year. And if you can't get Monken or can't get somebody in the Fangio mold, I like Stefanski right now. But honestly, Mike McDaniel, Brian Dable, they're failures as head coaches, yes, but you cannot argue that they're not better than the current state that Philadelphia had, or I guess technically had overall under Kevin Patullo.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people mentioning Mike McDaniel, as you were talking about there. Dable with the relationship with Hurts, as we all know. There's lots of those out there, but Hurts is in with a 10. Sirianni can go 2. Does not scheme. His offense is mid, carried by good coordinators. Eagles fan of 26 years living in Chicago. Bears have been roasting me all year. Apologies for that. Stay warm. It's apparently going to be really, really cold, even colder than it is right now. But yeah, Sirianni's not going anywhere. Like it's very shocked if there were anything on that side. Splash with a 10. I blame Nick for putting him in that position. Again, yes, it's his to step down. Should have fired him sooner. Hopefully get a better OC, draft the O-line. Agree with you there, but I think that a lot of people are overlooking this. At the end of the day, Thomas, the buck does not stop with Nick Sirianni, and he does not have as much say on, yes, I'm sure he wanted KP. I do believe that. But he still had to get the sign-off from Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. You can't convince me that they went, oh, well, you know what? You won the Super Bowl, so we're just going to go ahead and let you take your pick. No, they lived through 2023. They knew what Brian Johnson was like. They were sold on it enough to say, you know what? He's the answer. And if they were irritated to the extreme, they would have pulled the plug earlier. They would have said, Nick, I don't care. You have to right now pull the plug or you're going to be gone too. This is unacceptable. And they said, nope, we're going to just go ahead, keep moving on. So they made that decision. LaPanda with the Nick Foles question mark. That'll be interesting. We'll talk through all those in the videos upcoming weeks.
Sure.
But Kelly Huang, I'm running through these super chats, by the way. I've got an appointment to run to. I know Thomas is very busy as well, and we're going to get you guys caught up on everything else. But I do want to hit on these super chats because you did super chat, and we're going to address it. But just running on here quickly to address the news. This is not like a full live stream or the link as usual, so we're not going for the full hour. Kelly with a 5. How do they prevent prevent offense with Nick's philosophies and Jalen limitations? No shade. I love QB1. We need a run-first-minded offensive coordinator.
I mean, sure, but I want an offensive coordinator that continues to develop Jalen Hurts into a passer, which we saw in 2022 and we saw in 2024. So right. I think that you can do both.
Yeah, we've seen with an efficient OC, it's very possible. The Smeg, I believe, with a 5. Not going to lie, my favorite pick for OC is Daboll. Yep, Jalen played for him before, knows Saquon very well, and a whole lot of great points, as we were talking about.
Very true. As long as Saquon and Daboll are still friends, for sure.
That's true, yes. Depending on where that's at. I think him and Joe Shane are not at good positions, but maybe Daboll
Probably so.
Is not so much. AD with a 5, thank God. Another nickname here, Saddam Patullo Hussein is gone. So we're just throwing those out there. Rising Tides with a 5. Sirianni must be fired because he was loyal to a friend, but betrayed a city. He was.
I don't necessarily disagree.
They're going to keep it. It would at least be one more year, in my opinion. One more year. You have some struggles still with an offensive coordinator. I think at that point they say, you know what, we're going to have to move on completely. JP, at least our season didn't end like Pittsburgh's. I suppose it still kind of
pretty similar. Pretty much the same way. I mean, except we didn't get fully blown out. I think it's worse to lose a close one. Yeah, you get beat by 25 or whatever, or you lose by 4. It's like false hope, I guess. Evan with a 10, I'd rather have mid B-plus coordinator that stays a while than another great OC that leaves in 2027. Nick can't be trusted on offense. Needs someone to stick around like Fangio for Jalen's sake at this point. Yeah, absolutely. It again goes back to the 11 coordinators in 11 years. Tina with a 5. Do you guys have any suggestions who the coordinator is going to be? Well, we talked about that a second ago. Again, rewind this for the full preview or the full kind of consensus there. We'll have a lot more details, deep dives into videos, another stream later this week. 5 with Tino. I'm sorry, I got that one. We got one with Liam for the 5. They need an experienced play caller. Considering they can't fill it, we won a Super Bowl with an experienced one. Stumble with the first-timers in 23 and this past year, obviously, yes, seeing that. It's Jalen can do more than enough, even though he's not perfect. Nobody is. He may not. You don't even have to say that he's a top 3, top 4, top 5 quarterback if you don't want to. But Jalen's better or more than good enough to do that. Got Megan here with a 2. I've seen Byron Leftwich's name tossed around. Very surprising, interesting there. I don't know about that. Very low on my list, I would say. I would say very, very low. The guy had Tom Brady. We forget about that.
Yeah. I don't think that there's a lot of people signing for that. Dylan with a 5. Did you guys see the report? Patullo saying it wasn't his fault. Yes, I think
Richard Sherman said that on Nick Foles' podcast. Yes,
which that is.
Of course he did. Of course,
it's just like he's crying on that one. Which I don't know. Like I on one, like the human element of me is kind of like, man, I hate to see that. Just to, because my nature is not to drag anyone really through it. I mean, I like to troll occasionally, but like legitimately, But at the same time too, it's like, what does he expect? He's the OC, so of course he's going to get dragged through with what he's doing. 2 from John. Me too, Thomas. I froze for a loss. Yeah, John was at the game. That's right. Freezing one. That's right. Not as fun when we're losing, but President Mike with a 2. We'll be here for 2 years or be here 2 years from now if Nick is still here. Maybe
that would mean that they. It would mean that they won a lot of games, though, right? Because no one's hiring Kevin Patullo, even though they won a lot of games, but not the important ones. They win the important ones and get to the Super Bowl. Then sure, I'm fine with that. But maybe they'll not hire internally after next season. They will have learned their lesson, but who knows?
Yes. Yep. Lemons with the 2. Jalen Hurts now playing, 11th OC, like I mentioned. Mad with the 5. We need more than just a new OC. We need to rebuild the offensive line. Okay, but it's first steps, like one step at a time. That's right. You take care of the OC, then we do the O-line. Bert with a 2. Ding Tong, the witch is dead. We're so effing back. The celebration, the vibes are a lot higher. I mean, especially, I think it's about as high as you can get from off of a playoff loss. Frankie with a 5. We'll be back next year having the same conversation, rinse and repeat. There's still some negativity. IBH with a 5. Whoever they hire, he needs to have play calling experience that can be reviewed and fairly judged. They will. They know what they're doing now. It may have taken too long for us, but Green Wingman with a 5. Not only do they need a new OC, but probably senior advisor to work alongside Nick because his field of the game has been awful. Perhaps. Stinky Bandit, shout out 15 months for the membership there. Love Life Alaska with a 2. Fire Little Nicky, hire Stefanski, on board with the Stefanski part. I don't mind it, but they're just not going to.
They're not going to,
yet.
sadly.
They're not yet. Get the F out Patullo from Zarvin with the Larry Rice, the 5. I want Munkin. There's one of those. Mike McCarthy, Nick thrown out there. What about McCarthy? No, he's interviewing, but doesn't get a head coach. Could be a great coordinator. Maybe if he doesn't have the aspirations, do you really want he? It's like, again, you're looking at like poverty-wise, beggars can't be choosers, but now we're not necessarily beggars. It's the Eagles organization with a ton of talent. You can go out there and take your pick. I don't know if that's the first one you go after. Lunar Wolf with a 2. Please let Jalen have some say in OC or draft.
100%.
Sure,
100%. Yeah, for sure. They have to.
Dr. Roop with 5. I heard Philip Rivers wanted to coach. What are your thoughts on him?
That one's just a little too risky for me. Yeah, I need real offensive coordinator play calling experience who has shown us they can sequence and call plays properly.
Yep. A couple more super chats here, and then I'm wrapping it up again. I got to run, so I apologize to everybody else. We'll do this more for the full-length live streams. Thomas will have more recap on this video coming out later today. Grimargia with a 5. It's going to sound childish, but I cried after that loss. I'm smiling again. I don't think that's childish. I really don't. I can understand the swing of emotions, and you get a little optimistic to say, hey, look, we might have the opportunity now to go and get the right person. DJ with the, I envisioned Big Dom escorting him to the empty part of the facility like they did Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. That's
maybe. There's certainly a chance.
Some part of an escort. I don't know if it goes to the full extreme, but yeah, Zarvon with a 2. I still believe in AJ. That's another topic for conversation. And see, I think this is where you can potentially get it right, or at least in a better element here. You get the right OC, and it maybe changes the whole tuner vibes of AJ. Everyone needs like players-wise, they need a break. Get away from the facility, take a break, take a vacation, let the Patullo out of the building, figure out what we're going to do OC-wise, and then see. Maybe he sticks around. There's an OC that says, yes, I do want him here. Yes, we can absolutely take advantage of his skills and ability, and then sell that to AJ. And you know what? He may be completely bought in. And if not, then fine. You look at the possibility, even though it's a ton of dead cap money, but that's something that'll play out for a while. It's not going to be anything immediate. Last one here with a super chat. Terrell with a 5. Appreciate that. What will be done eventually must be done immediately. So long, Patullo. And that they did.
There you go. And they did. It's official. They officially did it. We knew it would happen. I didn't know it was happening today. I thought maybe tomorrow, but Kevin Patullo, he's out, and Philadelphia needs to hunt down a new offensive coordinator.
There we go. In better position. Drop a like for us on the way out. If you're just joining you now, again, Patullo is officially out. Rewind it. Get our takeaways. Thomas, thankfully, did not get ruined by the news coming out a little bit too late. So the video that Thomas is going to have will be later today. But more reactions, in-depth analysis, everything like that. So stay tuned and everything else. As always, we appreciate you guys. Go Birds.
Go Birds.